mixing with my mixing tip, creating a groove with compression. The idea of this mixing tip is to give you perhaps one of the most simple ways that you can work with compression to create groove in a song. So this is like something that is simple. It's like it's very practical. There's sort of a mathematical aspect to it, which makes it very easy. And I'm just doing this with a specific plugin, the Renaissance compressor. I really like it because of the shaping characteristics of the release time. Although you can do this similar type of technique with any stock plugin, I particularly like this one because of the shaping characteristic and the warming characteristics that it gives you as an option here. So, and also because we can see the numbers very clearly. So I wanted to kind of work with this. Now, when you work with a compression, generally there are two things that you're looking at, the attack and the release times. And then from there, in order to create a groove, you're just determining where the starting point of the instrument is with the attack time. So when you set a fast attack, then say the drums, for example, will not come out as front forward in the speakers. They will be slightly less aggressive or a little bit more contained on the attack, but the reverse movement will still be there from the release time, and I'll explain that. When you set a slow attack time, you're allowing the transient to pop through, moving the appearance of the drums more forward towards you in the speakers, and then the same release characteristic will give you a different sound from a different place. So what I want to do is I want to start with a sort of and you can go anywhere in between. So I'm going to start with one which is kind of like a real characteristic, like good number is like somewhere in between like 2 to 3 milliseconds. So I'm just going to kind of start in that mid-range, 2.5 milliseconds as an attack. I always kind of stay light on the ratio. And one of the reasons why I do this is that when you're working with compression and you set a threshold, sometimes obviously certain hits or notes will be much louder than others. And one of the problems you have when you go to the 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 ratios is that if, like, say, a kick drum hits way over, then all of a sudden for one or a couple of hits you get 6 or 8 or 10 dB of gain reduction, whereas on the others you only get 1 or 2 dB, which is kind of primarily what you're looking for. And what the lower ratio does is it sort of evens out that. So you're not going to get as much attenuation on the bigger peaks, but you're going to get more evenness in terms of the way that the processing works. And this is really important for creating a groove with the compression. So if I'm starting with this, basically what I want to do here is I'm going to start with, actually generally what I start with on drums is the overheads, because what the overheads do is they give you kind of the overall sense of the drum kit, so you can get a good sense of what's going on here. So what I want to do here is I want to figure out what my release time characteristic is. And this is something that is going to be largely based on the tempo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something here, which is just a little trick. And this basic trick is that you highlight what amounts to a quarter note area. So I'm just doing this in grid mode in Pro Tools. You can also, if you know what the tempo is, and in this case it's 82 beats per minute, you can just get a BPM to millisecond app. There's one for the iPhone. You can just for free download a PDF of the delay time chart. Here I'm just doing it just to show you how to do it here. If I switch the display to milliseconds, now I can see that 731, it seems like a very big number. Well, yeah, for 82 beats per minute, that would be right. So 731 is what's going to be a quarter note value. So if I have 731, it couldn't be an easy number. So then it would be, what's 350 and 15, 365 would basically be half of that, 182. So what I'm doing is I'm going down from quarter note to eighth note to 16th note. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a 182 release time. And I'm going to start there and just kind of see how this sounds in the context. And so here I'm going to get a couple dB of gain reduction. I'm not necessarily going to go here to a significant amount. But what I'm really looking for is the pumping and breathing movement. So if this doesn't work, I'm going to listen to what 365 sounds like. And then I can just go back to the previous. So what I like about the 365 is that it gives a little bit more sustain. In terms of the release characteristic of the compression here. So I'm going to kind of match my makeup gain here. I'm going to go with like a basic, raise my threshold. So I'm going to make my makeup gain very similar to my gain reduction on average. Here I can go to the different characteristics. On this I'm going to go to the electro because it'll add like a warming characteristic. So this is what it's like without it. And what you'll notice here is there's a sense of groove. There's a sense of feel to it. Like if you listen to it bypassed in or out, so that sounds kind of static. If you listen, it sounds sort of flat, a little two-dimensional. And what you're getting there is just like a little bit of depth that's added in. So now that I've kind of worked up this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these settings here. And now I'm going to paste this into the kick drum. So this is going to be my starting place for the kick drum. So when I bring the kick drum in, though, and you can hear the sustain of the kick drum. In fact, I think I'm going to lighten up on the ratio a little bit. And so I'm going to change that up over here as well. That just seems to breathe a little bit better. So listen to the sustain of that kick drum. How it drops right into the snare, right? So it sounds dead there. Right? And now it has like a feel to it. So now I'm going to copy this setting over here to the snare. And the one thing I'm adjusting here is just the threshold. So here is, let's go with and without. So if you can get a vibe for this, now what I'm going to do here is throw this on the hi-hat, believe it or not. Now most of what ends up triggering through here is going to be like snare energy and kick energy, and that's okay. Because this is going to help to create the breathing movement that we're looking for here. And this is really important. So when I add in the room, I want that kick and that snare to be driving the breathing, right, movement. So everything is moving at this 365. And I'm getting like, you know, you don't necessarily have to go to 3 dB a gain reduction, but this is the basic idea. So listen to what this does in terms of the depth characteristic. So you notice how the beat feels more static. Like it doesn't feel like it grooves as much. And now listen with the compression. So you can feel the sustain of the kick drum, the sustain of the snare, the carryover. It kind of fills that whole area in there and like gives it like this really nice shape. So when you get off the kick, it drops you right on the snare. When you come out of the snare, it drops you right onto the kick drum. And then if we want to add on bass on top of this, We can go fast or slow on the attack here, but we may go to a longer release time. So like here, for example, so if I now take this up and I add like a musical. So you can see how the gain reduction doesn't really change a lot with the threshold, and that has a lot to do with the lower makeup gain, or the lower ratio. So that's up there pretty high. It must have a lot of boost on there. I think I need to bring my gain down here. Coming in. So let's see what the difference is here. So this hits a little bit more with the drums, but when I slow it down, what it does is it kind of works a little bit more, allows the drums to sort of punch through the sustain of the. So this is like a good formula, like double the release time on the bass from the drums, and the drums will punch through it. This can kind of follow as you go on to like working with other instruments here. So now here I may want to take on an approach where I want this to be a little bit more forward. So here I'm going to slow down the attack. But I'm going to keep my release time characteristics similar. So here, what I'm going to do is I want to experiment here with going two steps. One is faster. So that really pulls the clav forward. I kind of really like that, so I'm going to copy the settings and then put this on the guitar, and then do a similar thing here on the guitar. So this will pull those instruments forward with a slower attack, and then you can kind of get a vibe for that. So let's check that Check out the whole depth of field, right? Right, so the clav and the guitar up front, drums in the back, bass sitting right there in the middle. Notice how everything occupies the same two-dimensional plane. So let's go back here. So notice the separation. So, and this is just like a really, really, really simple technique for creating depth and creating placement and creating groove. The release times being musical is absolutely critical. So on analog consoles when I was working on the numbers really that were etched on the console itself didn't necessarily correlate to the exact times. You would just kind of hear it out. So you would move that release time until it felt like it was grooving and moving. And you would end up doing very similar settings for all of the instruments. Like the whole idea of getting all of the drums to kind of move and breathe at that same tempo helps to create the sense of groove just within the drum kit itself. And you can hear the sense of the depth that's added in. You do the same type of formula with every instrument. You put one layer of this across, and now all of a sudden your mix really has this like tremendous openness and depth. And then you can really play with what you want up forward, what you want in the back. So the more forward you want something, get something, the slower the attack and the faster the release. The more you want something to sustain and kind of sit back, the faster the attack and the longer the release. And then you can kind of play with the sustain, particularly with the drums. It's more about the sustain of the tone of the individual elements of the kit and how they fit within the song. And even when the tempos go up faster and all of that, as long as the values are musical, they'll generally hold and kind of keep their own within that. But this is like just like a really simple way that you can just use any stock compressor to create like a real cool sense of groove and movement within a track. So anyway, that's our mixing tip of the week, creating groove with compression.